Welcome back to another episode of Gear or Gadget. We are Exodus, and we're here to give you our opinions on 3 very specific pieces of hunting gear. You guys know the ground rules, no brand bashing. If you use the term game changer, you are exiled from the show forever. You might even get your tongue cut out. And rule 3, if you guys like the content, be sure to smash that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and leave your opinion down in the comment section. So let's get started. So today what I have brought in has changed my efficiency as an archer. So for years and years and years since I was a teenager, I've always shot a wrist style release. I've talked about this in the past, not the world's greatest archer. Never thought I really had what people call target panic, but I know that I'm a terrible habit of, 1, not always having the greatest precise, consistent anchoring point with that wrist release, and 2, I have a very bad habit of punching the trigger. Terrible. And I don't consider that target panic, but when you look at the grand scope of things, that is target panic. I'm holding the pin, I'm trying to float that pin, and all of a sudden I'm like, there's my shot, gotta take it now. Boom, I'm slapping that thing. Again, I've never had a problem in the woods as far as like, I've made bad shots. I don't want to come off like an elitist because I am not. I'm not the world's greatest archer. But switching to a thumb release last year has improved my consistency, which relates to accuracy. Having this, and this specific thumb release, it's a stand Perfect X, a ton of adjustability here, but I have it set up to shoot 3 fingers, the bigger thumb barrel because I have big hands, a longer neck because I have fat, stubby fingers. I have like Flintstone hands here. But shooting this has allowed me to have a more precise anchor. With a wrist release, I used to anchor here like this, which a lot of guys do, using the webbing between their pointer finger and their thumb on their jawline. With this, it allows me to anchor between my 2 knuckles on the very point of my jawbone, much more precise. The biggest thing is, eliminating that finger slap or, punching a trigger. Having this here and being able to just squeeze and actually adjust the tension on that trigger has helped me tremendously. I know that everyone's kind of different in their archery path, but if you are struggling with target panic, if you're struggling with anchor points and being consistent in your shot process, I would highly advise folks to go buy a thumb release. And you don't have to buy this, the most expensive one. This thing is a little bit pricey, but try a thumb release. And I think that you guys will see the benefits in being a more consistent and accurate archer.
I have 2 questions for you that maybe some other people might be thinking as well. 1, have you found it any harder to pull back the bow, like any different on the weight?
Nope. And I actually went up. So my new setup, I've always shot 70-pound bow, but buried, so 72 pounds. I went up 10 pounds. Now I have an 80-pound bow. No problems drawing that. A little bit of that depends on your bow and your draw cycle and the aggressiveness of the cams. But I actually like having something where I can make a fist and like get a hold of it and draw. Now, there's some techniques there that, guys will say it's hard on your shoulders if you have your, wrist rotated in a certain way, and then you need to have your wrist like this when you draw versus doing this and then rotating your shoulder under load. So I think that there is some caution there. If you have bad shoulders, you just have to be, cautious of your form and be very particular. But I actually think it's easier to draw with this.
I wasn't aware of that. And my second question, in the moment of truth, are you ever worried about not being able to clip it on, or do you, when you leave it hanging, do you ever worry about knocking it off? Like you're looking at the deer coming in. Like that's in my mind, I'm going through watching the deer. I have mine attached to my wrist at all times,
Sure.
So I'm just clipped on and I'm good. I don't have to even look. And I would find myself trying to find it and worry about knocking it off.
So the majority of the hunting I've done this year outside of elk season, I've had this, if I'm stand hunting, whitetail hunting, I've had this clipped on. So I carry it in my bino bivvy, same place every time, clip it on when I get to my spot or when I'm set up, and it stays
So it's already there.
It's already there on the whitetail side. The one thing, so I guess I don't have any worries about that. The one thing I have worried about is misplacing this Western hunting. Having it floating around in my pocket, you sit down, you take a 30-minute break to eat lunch or whatever, regroup, you're looking at maps, and you set this stuff down. I've done it with some other gear, so that is the only thing that I get worried about this. So I do carry an extra release with me, which is an old wrist style release. But I found that just keeping this in my bino bivvy and putting it in the same place every time has helped. Mm-hmm. And depending on the model, you can also run a lanyard on this. So I don't like to have that there just because, there's more stuff to kind of get in the way. And then if I don't have it on my wrist, if it's hanging on my bow, then it's something else I have to worry about and fiddle with, in the moment of truth. So no worries there.
I've tried them. I don't like them just because I have really small hands and my hands are extremely sweaty. You can look at them right now and they're just wet. And when I grab that metal release, I don't get a really good grip on it as opposed to just having it on my wrist and using my wrist to pull back. All the best archers in the world are using thumb releases or back tension releases. So I completely am it's gear for sure, but it's just not for me.
One con to this, that you just brought up, is if you have bulky gloves, I could see where it's difficult to have the proper finger placement on this. Like if you have, I don't know, just big, bulky, late season winter gloves, I could see where it's difficult. So usually I'm wearing fingerless, light merino wool gloves all the way through the season, at least on this hand.
Well, you kind of answered both the questions I had. One, misplacing it, and two, the late season gloves, because that would be my biggest concern is my gloves. Like when we were in Wisconsin, I have those big, heavy, bulky ones, and I'm just used to having that wrist release just hanging there underneath that glove. I could definitely see where it's going to help your anchor point, because like you said, when I anchor with my wrist release, I'm just, tucking it right there on the jawbone. So I can see where that helps. With my hunting gear, though, I like stuff that has a lanyard on it that I can, either hang it from my neck, hang it from my wrist or whatever, because I misplace my hunting gear. Like, especially when I'm up at my deer camp up in northern Pennsylvania, I'm putting a couple miles on a day. I can't tell you how many times I got chewed out for losing a walkie-talkie or,
Right.
Just dropping something in the woods. And
Yep.
that would be my biggest concern. I'm like you, I've also shot a wrist release since I was a kid, so.
Gear all the way around, I think.
Gear.
Check it out.
What'd you bring?
So today, I brought what's called sling sticks. I've been using these for probably 10 plus years now. So this is actually a gun sling here that has a bipod built into it. So it's got a sleeve here that holds the sticks. You pull the sleeve down, they pop out, fit right into this plastic part up here, and boom, you have a steady shooting rest.
That was actually pretty quick.
Yeah, they're pretty quick to set up. I dropped the sleeve for it, but it's got a rubber backing on it, which I like. I know a lot of guys complain about this style of sling where it's just like the material. You get, those bigger, heavy, late season coats on. It's always sliding around on your shoulder. That rubber, it holds it there secure. In my opinion, it's steady enough to let you get a better shot. The legs are a little wobbly. That's my only complaint. But it packs away super easy.
Yeah, I think that this is probably more along the lines of being mobile, being portable, being lightweight versus having a higher end bipod that's made out of aluminum or some kind of metal, maybe carbon fiber, and attaching to your gun. I could see this being pretty applicable like during running gun turkey season, where you're not having to shoulder a gun for 5 or 6 minutes. I know that especially if you're using a heavier 12 gauge, not everybody has a 4-pound turkey slayer like Cameron over there. So I can see the benefit of using that in that type of setup for sure. I don't think that's probably something that guys want to use like if you're making 500 plus yard shots and you need a solid rest or a solid setup.
This, I think the farthest shot I've ever taken on this was maybe 120, 130 yards, which up in the PA Big Woods, you're lucky if you get past that anyway. So this is, good enough, steady enough to help me with those little bit longer shots. Like you said, they're like 400 or 500 yard shots. These are plastic legs, so I wouldn't really trust that to be like a rock solid, steady rest for a gun.
Outside of the turkey application, because that's where my mind goes initially with this, I could see this coming into handy really well in muzzleloader season when you're geared up really heavily already and you don't want to carry extra stuff that's already attached to your gun. And muzzleloaders are heavy to begin with, so having something to steady that rather than using your knee or trying to bend up against a tree, because I've never used a sling on a gun before ever in my life, just not something we have ever done. So I'm always trying to find a rest somehow. Like this would just be already attached to the gun. You don't have to bring anything else. Gives you that extra stabilization that you might need for a 100, 120 yard shot, which that's going to be your range anyways. I think it's smart. I think it's, gear.
Oh, gear for sure. The nice thing I like too is when it packs down, it's right here on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Yep, just pull it right out. Sleeves down on the floor right now, but you slide it down, it pops right out. It's good to go.
What's the ballpark cost on something like that? Just ballpark.
They don't make these anymore, actually. They're discontinued. When they did sell them, I think they were like $30, $40. Midway still has them on their site, but it has it listed as discontinued, but still shows a price.
Good, cool. Good choice.
Yeah, I think it's a piece of gear.
My item today is kind of a two-part, but the big idea is padding for your knees. And this kind of goes with spot and stalk hunting, hunting on the ground, saddle hunting, and running gun turkey hunting. I always have some type of padding on my knees, and this is kind of a area where, like, if you're a man and you're like getting into saddle hunting or something, everyone's like the first year like, I don't need knee pads. I don't need knee pads. It's like, okay, tough guy. Like, you don't like comfort, that's on you. I'm not here to debate whether or not it makes it easier, because it does. You can sit longer in one position. You're not fidgeting around unless you're like, I mean, think of like the trades like masonry or painters. They're all wearing knee pads. Like, there's a reason why these are available. These are the Latitude Outdoors knee pads. They're really nice, Vibram outer. Like, this thing's solid. I think it's a tad bit overkill. It's just a little too big. Like, I don't think you really need that much. I liked them better in North Dakota when I was hunting with Trey. I was crawling to my spot. I liked having the big knee pad for that. But for being in a saddle, it's just like, I don't know, just a little bit too big. I feel like you can get away with less. And I also have, these are my absolute favorite pant to hunt in ever. One, because they're super comfortable. These are the Sitka Apex pants. I bought these for a Western trip because they had built-in knee pads, and they're removable. They're just like the football knee pads. For saddle hunting, it is almost not enough padding, but it's decent, like if you have a short hunt or something. But I almost always am wearing these pants with these knee pads in if I don't have these knee pads with me. But for turkey hunting, early season hunting, and then in the late season where I'm wearing my Sitka Fanatic bibs, I don't wear these knee pads because I'm already bulky. I put these underneath. So I have this pad plus the padding from the Sitka Fanatic, and I'm super comfortable and I can sit for a long time. So if you are on the fence about whether or not knee pads are a must-have for saddle hunting, I'm gonna say yes. Like, just like suck up your pride and put knee pads on, because it's gonna be more effective for you in the long run, because you're not gonna be moving around trying to get comfortable.
I think from my perspective, I also have the Kuiu pants that have the knee pads. They're not on the inside, so there's not a pocket stitched in them, but they're on the outside. They're a little bit smaller than that, but like as you said, there's just enough there to make them work. If you're a sitter in your saddle and you like to use your knees in the tree and pinned up, they probably don't cut it for long all-day sits. Your knees are probably still going to feel that wear. But for me, that application or that type of product fits me very, 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 very well.
When I first bought these, I was like, oh, I'm going to take the knee pads out because it's going to feel weird or they're going to be cumbersome. No, you don't even know they're there. And then when you need them, it's really nice to have. And when you don't need them, it's not, it doesn't get in your way at all. So I'm a sitter in my saddle. I will always use those knee pads when I'm sitting. And yeah, I don't have an issue at all. I love these. Now, they're expensive. They're $70, I think. Tethers are $70. The trophy line ones are, I think, $25. So those are a really good option. But what's nice about the Latitude ones, and I'll keep this kind of quick here, but just to show you, one of the benefits is like the upper strap is elastic, so it bends and moves, and this portion moves as well. So when your knee's bending, only the bottom is moving, so this doesn't slide. This doesn't move up and down. Like with the other ones, they're both like this. They don't slide, they're not elastic, so they don't move with your leg. And it's just kind of like when you're walking into your saddle, when you're walking in, your butt's going like this, and your saddle goes down, your knees are doing the same thing. Your knees are bending, and the knee pads kind of adjust. So this being kind of elastic here keeps it to your upper part of your knee, and the bottom doesn't move either. So,
quick question, general question. The integrated knee pads versus the external knee pads, which ones are typically more quiet on tree bark?
Well, it depends on your pant too, but I would say the internal ones. These ones aren't loud though. I mean, that's rubber, so it's not like a hard piece of plastic. If you're using like painters ones or something like that, or mason ones where they're plastic, those are going to make more noise.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Cool. I think it's a piece of gear.
I think it's a piece of gear too. I like them. They put a lot of thought into this. This reminds me of like my old elbow pads from when I played hockey. I had the cheapos before, go on your elbow, that had no, like, there was no hinge like this whatsoever. You couldn't move. And just this, like, when I upgraded, got the better elbow pads that had like the crease like this, just my mobility increased tenfold. I also like these too. That's super quiet, super well thought out.
Yeah, it doesn't move. They don't
So
come
Lucas
undone.
is talking about these buckles and how easy they clasp together, I guess. Or,
Yeah,
or lock in.
There's no, well, a little bit of noise, sliding against that, but I mean.
I mean, you're doing that at the truck,
Yeah.
or you're doing that
Yeah.
where you're getting dressed, so it's not. Yeah, I'm always wearing them in when I'm going in because they're not cumbersome at all. They're comfortable. Yeah, that's it for me.